Underworld defined early 2000s Gothic action, but the story behind the Fangs is even crazier. From lawsuits to hidden marriages and shocking on-set injuries, this dark franchise started with one of the strangest productions in modern action cinema. Celine's skin-tight black suit became an instant pop culture icon, but it wasn't easy to wear. The costume was crafted from real latex, not fake vinyl, meaning it trapped heat and sweat. Beckinsale described it as wearing a full-body sauna. To make things worse, she had to wear it 12 to 14 hours a day under hot set lights. The crew powdered her down between takes to stop her from sticking to walls or furniture. Despite the discomfort, the look became so iconic it inspired countless cosplays and action heroines for years after. Although Underworld looks like a dark, neo-futuristic city, it was filmed entirely in Budapest, Hungary. The reason? The Gothic architecture and old stone buildings perfectly matched the vampire aesthetic, and the production could save a ton of money. Nearly every exterior, from vampire mansions to sewers, was a real location. The filmmakers even repurposed abandoned factories for the Lycans' lairs. Locals were so curious about the constant fake rain and gunfire that police had to issue public notices assuring people it wasn't a real gang war. When Kate Beckinsale was cast as Celine, she thought she was signing up for a dark horror drama, not an action film. She later said, "I didn't even own sneakers, and suddenly I was doing backflips in leather." She trained in martial arts and gun handling for months, doing many of her own stunts. The transformation was so complete that fans often assumed she had prior action experience. In reality, Underworld was her first true action movie, and it launched an entirely new phase of her career. To keep the atmosphere authentically dark, filming took place mostly between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. The cast spent months living nocturnal schedules, sleeping through the day and working all night. Kate Beckinsale joked, "We all turned into vampires minus the blood drinking." It was so physically draining that some crew members wore sunglasses indoors during daylight to reset their body clocks. The commitment paid off. The movie's moody realism wouldn't have worked without it. That icy blue tone you instantly associate with Underworld? It wasn't just a style choice, it was an accident-turned aesthetic. The production's low budget meant they couldn't afford consistent lighting, so Wiseman used heavy blue color grading to mask inconsistencies and unify the look. The result became iconic, inspiring dozens of copycats like Resident Evil and Blade Trinity. The blue-black filter defined mid-2000s Gothic cinema and even influenced video games like Devil May Cry and The Darkness. The production team used real firearms instead of plastic props for authenticity. Every weapon was modified to fire blank rounds, meaning explosions and muzzle flashes were 100% real on camera. This made the action scenes feel gritty and raw, but it was also risky. Beckinsale and co-star Scott Speedman underwent strict weapons training. One crew member reportedly burned his sleeve when a blank cartridge discharged too close. By the end of filming, the smell of gunpowder was so strong that Beckinsale's leather outfit had to be replaced twice. Sony executives were not fans of Underworld's bleak ending. They wanted a romantic finale where Celine and Michael escaped the chaos and embraced Under a Sunrise, a fairy tale ending for a vampire and her hybrid lover. But Len Wiseman refused, saying, "Monsters don't get sunsets." He fought to keep the open-ended, tragic tone intact. The result was a cliffhanger where Celine and Michael flee as fugitives gave the movie its emotional weight and mystery. It teased a larger mythology that would carry into Underworld evolution. Ironically, the very ending Sony resisted became one of the film's defining strengths, proving that not every dark story needs to be softened for mainstream audiences. Sometimes, darkness sells, especially when it's dressed in black latex. The seed for Underworld wasn't born in a Hollywood office. It started during a casual argument. Writer Kevin Grevioux, who also plays the towering Lycan Rays, once debated with a friend about who would win in a fight, a vampire or a werewolf. That single conversation sparked a universe. Grevioux, who studied microbiology, used his science background to make the supernatural war feel realistic, weaving in genetics, viral infections, and hybrid bloodlines. He envisioned the vampires as aristocrats, and the Lycans as the oppressed working class, turning monster mythology into a class war. That small what-if moment became a $500 million franchise spanning 2 decades, proving the best ideas sometimes come from late-night geek debates, not studio think tanks. Action comes at a price, and Underworld's production had its share of danger. During a rooftop chase, Kate Beckinsale's stunt double suffered a terrifying fall when her safety rig malfunctioned. She fell from a 2-story platform, fracturing bones in her leg and shoulder. Production halted for 2 days while the stunt was re-engineered. Beckinsale, who did many of her own stunts, was shaken by the incident but returned to filming with even greater determination. The crew tightened safety protocols after the accident, but the moment served as a stark reminder of the physical toll that Gothic action realism demanded. Those leaps and flips weren't just cinematic, they were downright dangerous. Michael Sheen, who played Lucian, wasn't content with being a typical villain. A Shakespeare-trained actor, he wanted depth, tragedy, and purpose. During filming, he collaborated with Wiseman to rewrite much of his dialogue, turning Lucian from from a snarling monster into a freedom fighter. His version of Lucian was layered with pain and dignity, motivated by love and betrayal rather than bloodlust. Critics later praised Sheen's performance for elevating the movie beyond action tropes. Ironically, Sheen was the first actor cast, and his emotional take on Lucian inspired Wiseman to make the film's war more morally complex. Unlike most modern monster movies, Underworld relied heavily on practical effects to bring its Lycans to life. Director Len Wiseman wanted the transformations to feel physical and painful, not glossy and digital. The team used full-body animatronic suits, puppetry, and layered prosthetics that expanded with hidden air bladders to mimic stretching muscle and bone. Actor Michael Sheen described spending up to 6 hours in makeup just for one transformation scene. The result was a blend of realism and horror that even CGI-heavy films struggle to match today. The Lycans' glowing eyes and snarling jaws weren't computer-generated either. They used reflective contacts and mechanical rigs. It's a gritty, hands-on approach that gave Underworld its raw, visceral tone and helped it stand out from the over-digitized monster flicks of the 2000s. While filming Underworld, Kate Beckinsale met the movie's director, Len Wiseman. At the time, both were in other relationships, Beckinsale with actor Michael Sheen, who also starred in the film as Lucian. After production, Beckinsale and Wiseman began dating and later married in 2004. The tabloids exploded with gossip, calling it a vampire love triangle. Despite the drama, Sheen stayed on good terms with both and even reprised his role in later films. It's one of Hollywood's strangest real-life stories to come from a movie about bloodsuckers. Believe it or not, Underworld was originally over 3 hours long. The first edit contained elaborate flashbacks to vampire history, extended council debates, and deeper character development for Lucian and Victor. The mythology was rich, but the pacing dragged. Sony demanded a 2-hour runtime, forcing Wiseman to cut massive chunks of the story. Some of these scenes, like a deeper dive into Seleni's past and the history of the Lycans' enslavement, were restored in the extended cut. Fans later praised this version as the true Underworld, since it explains many of the cryptic references and power struggles. Even Kate Beckinsale admitted that the shorter theatrical version felt like reading only half the book. The lost footage is a haunting reminder of how much world-building was sacrificed for box office pacing. Len Wiseman wasn't a big Hollywood name when Underworld began. In fact, he was a commercial artist and music video director who'd never made a feature film before. His only experience was designing storyboards for Independence Day and Men in Black. But his sharp visual sense and obsession with classic monster movies caught producers' attention. He pitched Underworld as Romeo and Juliet with vampires and werewolves, and somehow got the green light. His background in visual art explains why Underworld looks like a moving painting with all moody lighting, rain-slicked streets, and icy color palettes. Scott Speedman, who played Michael Corvin, wasn't a Hollywood action star. He was discovered in a Gap commercial. Director Len Wiseman spotted his brooding intensity and thought he'd make the perfect hybrid of vulnerability and strength. During auditions, Speedman was put through grueling physical tests, including shirtless combat rehearsals in freezing Budapest temperatures. In one scene, he actually got mild hypothermia but refused to stop shooting, insisting he wanted to earn the blood. His transformation scenes were some of the most demanding, involving extensive prosthetics and motion capture. Ironically, Speedman's character became the heart of the series, a man torn between two worlds, embodying both humanity and monstrosity. Sony originally wanted Underworld to be PG-13, hoping for a broader teen audience, but Wiseman refused to neuter his film. The studio pushed to cut blood, language, and violence, arguing that a love story between vampires and werewolves should appeal to high schoolers. Wiseman stood firm, insisting that Underworld's Gothic world had to feel violent, tragic, and adult. After weeks of back and forth, he won but barely. The film was released with an R rating for strong violence and some gore. That decision made Underworld stand out from other sanitized early 2000s action films. Its darker tone and blood-soaked atmosphere gave it cult credibility, something no PG-13 edit could have ever captured. Sometimes, sticking to your artistic guns is worth the bite. Despite feeling gritty and grounded, Underworld secretly relied on more than 400 digital effects shots. The trick? Most of them were invisible. Instead of flashy CGI monsters, Wiseman used digital touch-ups to blend practical effects and wire stunts seamlessly. Blood mist, bullet trails, muzzle flashes, and Lycans leaping through moonlight were enhanced frame by frame. This subtle approach gave the film its signature realism, a blend of fantasy and noir that aged far better than its CGI-heavy contemporaries. VFX artists also digitally extended sets, adding rooftops, towers, and moonlit skies over Budapest. Wiseman later said, "The best visual effects are the ones you don't notice," and in Underworld, that philosophy paid off beautifully. Underworld wasn't supposed to be a blockbuster. Made for a modest $22 million budget, it opened against Lost in Translation and Secondhand Lions, and still exploded at the box office, earning nearly $100 million worldwide. Critics were mixed, but audiences fell in love with its moody visuals, forbidden romance, and stylish action. What started as a risky Gothic experiment became a full full-blown franchise spanning sequels, prequels, comics, and even video games. The franchise's success proved there was still a massive audience for R-rated monster action, especially when wrapped in sleek leather and mythology. 2 decades later, Underworld remains one of the few early 2000s action series still fondly remembered and frequently rewatched every Halloween. Before Underworld, vampires were mostly aristocrats or horror cliches. After Underworld, they became modern icons of power, style, and tragedy. The movie fused the supernatural with cyberpunk aesthetics, turning old legends into modern warfare. Its influence reached far beyond film. Fashion designers, game creators, and even Resident Evil borrowed its sleek look and vibe. Kate Beckinsale's Celine became an archetype of the leather-clad, gun-wielding anti-heroine that reshaped how female action stars were portrayed. Underworld made the undead cool again, merging monster mythology with rock video energy. Its legacy is undeniable. Every slick, stylized vampire film that came after owes a little blood debt to the world that Celine built under the moonlight. And that's 20 surprising facts about Underworld. Which facts surprised you most? Drop it in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the wildest stories behind your favorite cult classics.